It's only in the left earphone. Oh no. So this is what happens when you reinstall your operating system on literally all the hardware you have, and then forget that you've done that when you have your regular stream box that you just plug in and everything works. And then an hour before the stream starts, you go and yeah, it's you have to reset everything from scratch. So, and then my headphones weren't here. It was just a whole mess. But hey, hello, hi, welcome to the stream. It's gonna be pretty informal today, I think. So I'm gonna sip on my coffee here, and we'll get started on just some question and answers. I'm gonna look at some of the things we've done since the original release a couple weeks ago. Yeah, we'll go from there, and maybe a little preview of what's coming in a new ISO, probably sometime towards the end of the month. So yeah, let's get started. Sorry about the background noise. I don't know if I said that when I was actually streaming or not. That's the laptop struggling. Let's copy that over to the other thing. I'm also trying a couple new things in OBS, which is probably not the best idea, but we'll see. Hey, oh, we don't want that on my face. Let's put you over here. We'll do it live. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Hey, there we go. Oh yeah, I wanted to see. So yeah, you know what? I'm only seeing mono on my on this as well. On now that I look at it in OBS, actually, I don't know if I can just tell it to be mono. Yes, there's a mono button. I'm gonna check that. It's this one. Okay, now am I coming through both ears here? Is that a little better? Cool. So hi everybody. I'm on Elementary OS 6 here. I think if you've got any questions in the Q&A, just drop them there, and I'll try to keep up with them there. Otherwise, I'm just going to start going through our releases. Releases.elementary.io, and probably could also do the where is this? It's we have an Odin post-release project board, or I guess it's technically a 6.1 project board right now that we're kind of using, and we'll probably clean these all up in the next week or two, get things better organized for 6.1 versus just normal updates. Yeah, that chat's not going to work on the screen there. That's not gonna fly. That's covering up too much of my screen. Yeah, super chats are available, and I'll help your questions stand out, as Dan has mentioned in the chat. That's a better way for me to be able to see it. And let's see. Oh, I can interact with the chat there. Okay, all right. I'm going to hide it for now. Too much going on. Okay, so this is the 6.1 project board. It's kind of a mess right now, but we basically have this 6.0.1 column going on here. And this is everything we're trying to get out here in the next week or so to have just a nice refresh of the ISO with a lot of feature updates and stuff. And you can see there's already tons of stuff done over here in the done column, and quite a bit that's in progress. So it's a never-ending development of an operating system. But yeah, so obviously got to write the blog post. Oh, hey, I did this. I'm going to move this over to done. There's some packaging related things that we found that we need to fix. There's an update to, so we're shipping the latest of the web 3.38 branch for the web browser. And there is a new major release that's coincides with GNOME 40 called Web 40. So we have some work there to make sure that any patches that we carry and any styling changes in our style sheet work in Web 40 as well. And then we've got a bunch of releases here. Lots of little updates to apps and system components, little bug fixes, little feature additions. Let's hop over now to this release board, or this release website. So this is this lists all packages that Elementary OS has, or all repos on GitHub. and it shows when the latest release was, what the version number was, how many commits have been made to the main branch since this was released. And then if you expand each of these, it gives you a little nice changelog. So you can see since the release, this is not the best way to go about doing this. Dan, I just need to bring up your blog post. That would be the better way to do this. Again, apologies about the kind of mess here. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can pull up a blog post draft. That might be a little bit more distilled into usable information. Just go back to pull up the chat here. No external link drop questions here in chat. Yes. Web 40, I don't believe Web 40 is GTK4. GNOME 40 added GTK4 as a supported version, but I don't believe all GNOME apps are GTK4 yet. So, yeah, we won't have to ship an entire new version of GTK as far as I understand in the Flatpak runtime. But it does have some styling changes with tabs, especially is the big one. You can see, I can pull that issue up specifically. So we've got a pull request here that updates the manifest, and then here's a screenshot of what we're seeing right now. So it's just like there's some changes in the tabs here. You can see that it's weird. There's like weird gray that's overlapping, but it's actually really close for the most part. Oh, and this was before we had the patch for the back and forward buttons back in. But it's pretty close. I don't think it'll be crazy hard to do, but we are shipping the latest 3.38 branch, which is maintained as like a stable branch. So it's still up to date and it has the latest WebKit and things, but this will give us, get us more in sync with upstream GNOME for the browser. Good question. Okay, let me pull up blog post on my other screen. Did I mention this is going to be kind of informal today? Apologies. We'll get back in the flow of things with more regular streams and we won't be reinstalling the operating system on all of our hardware all the time anymore. So we can have kind of our normal setups back to normal. Okay, pull request for the blog, August updates. Here's my draft with some bullet points that I had. There we go. Okay, this is better. Yeah, so a big update actually that's really important is the App Center Flatpak status update. So as many of you may know, we released Elementary OS on let's see, it was on the 10th, right? Like 1, 2, was that the 10th? Oh my gosh, I'm so not prepared for this stream. We released it, and there weren't as many apps in App Center as we would have liked because third-party app developers have to update their apps for App Center and for Elementary OS 6. And that's a process that we started with the public betas, but a lot of developers kind of decided, you know, hey, I'm gonna wait until the release is out, and then I'll update my app. And then that was their choice. So it meant App Center on launch was not as full as you might expect, having, 200 some apps in there or whatever. But I'm happy to report that we do have at appcenter.elementary.io, we have our list of apps there. We currently have 49 apps here that are curated, flat-packed, updated for Elementary OS 6. So these are using the new style sheet. They're using new GTK features, new platform features. Many of them support the dark style out of the box now, which is really nice to see. And then we also have the 164 legacy apps here that are, packaged as Debians for previous releases that still do need to be updated. And I see a couple of my apps there, and I just need to get to that. But yeah, it's pretty good progress. Went from being literally, I think there were like 2 or 3 apps leading up to the release that were in there, and now there's nearly 50, and I think there's a few more in review. And that's actually a cool thing about the new Flatpak-based App Center is we have a public review process. So on github.com/elementary/App Center reviews, we have our public review dashboard basically powered by GitHub. So all the pull requests here are apps that have been submitted or updates to apps that have been submitted. And you can see here's an example of an update to an app. There's a checklist that gets added here by CI. And so we use that, the reviewers use that to go through and make sure that the app passes everything. There's also automated reviews. You can see here on the CI that runs. So it parses the pull request. This is super technical here, but yeah, it parses the pull request, matches the version numbers and stuff, and then it actually builds it on our in our CI, and then it uploads. It creates an artifact, which is a downloadable version of an app, and that opens in sideload. It's zipped, but then opens in sideload. Then you can install that and open it straight from there. So it's pretty cool to test apps, and like if you want to see what apps are coming soon or want to see the progress of apps, you can go do this. It's all public, and you can see our conversations that we have about apps. So yeah, here's an update to Hasher, and it's as a Flatpak here in CI. Pretty cool. But yeah, you can see it here. So we talked about, hey, we found this issue and we added it to the checklist, and then the developer responded here and said, hey, here's the new release. So it's really cool to see this public dialogue back and forth. We used to have this, the dashboard used to be private to the reviewers and the developers, and then we would go manually file issues on the GitHub repos, and like it wasn't really all in one place. It was kind of, there was the dashboard, which was separate from the issues, and now with everything being public on GitHub, it's all in one place. And you get nice things like linking when somebody mentions an issue, it links it in the thread. So like, I don't know, it's really cool. I'm going on a tangent here about why I love this process, but it really has changed the whole review process for the better. It's very transparent and open. If an app is actually rejected or needs changes before it's accepted, that's now all very public to see. So it's kind of a nice transparency and accountability aspect to the new App Center. But yeah, so we've got these 49 apps here, several more that are in review right now. And once some issues get figured out there, we will get these merged in as well. So that's a big update for App Center. Yeah, I know a lot of people were expecting, it's maybe not obvious that all these apps have to be rebuilt between each Debian release. The nice thing is now that never has to happen again. These are Flatpaks. These Flatpaks will run on any operating system that supports Flatpak, including Elementary OS 7 and beyond, theoretically. So in the future, on launch day, we'll have all of the apps that you expect to see on launch day, and that's really nice. Another little just kind of random nicety here, I guess, is that on the App Center website, we also have for apps that are explicitly not monetized. Let's find an example of one. I don't know if Eddie is. Gotta remember one. Okay, Remind Duck. Remind Duck's explicitly not monetized. There's no monetization enabled by the developer. So we can display a Flatpak download right here on App Center, on the App Center website. So you can actually download this and run it theoretically on any operating system that supports Flatpak as well. So that's kind of a cool angle to the whole App Center for everyone, is that we now are making these apps not just available on Elementary OS, but anywhere. Yeah. All right, I'm going to follow up on the chat here. I see a handful of things. Is there a plan to get Hera apps into Odin if the developer of said app has gone AWOL? Some of them have open pull requests with Flatpak stuff done. So yeah, we don't package third-party apps. So apps are developed and submitted by their developers. If there's a case of there's an old, one of these legacies apps, if the developer isn't around anymore or stopped updating their app or whatever, we're not going to take over maintainership. We don't want to reintroduce the whole distro maintainership problem. what can be done, because every app on App Center is open source, an interested developer who wants to continue the development of one of these apps could fork it and rebrand it and then release that to App Center. We require the rebranding on the elementary side just so that users aren't confused about, they knew the developer before and now it's a different developer and it's not real clear. And so we make sure that the app would have a new name, new icons and branding and stuff. But otherwise, the code base itself, you can fork it and submit it as a new app and go through the normal process. And, we do recommend that developers use GitHub organizations to organize their apps so that if they were to disappear someday or they wanted to hand it off to some other developer, it makes that process a lot easier. But if it's on your personal GitHub account and then you delete your GitHub account or you just don't have any interest in updating it anymore, you can't really transfer it with RDNN and stuff. So that's another reason we recommend everybody use a GitHub org when they're submitting apps. But yeah, that would be the way to go about that, is an interested developer can fork an app and submit it as a new app because it's open source. And that's part of the beauty of open source. Let's see. Somebody's talking about monitors and resolutions. I don't, it's a hardware specific question. I don't know that I can answer that on a stream. Let's see. Do all App Center apps have to be packaged as Flatpak from Elementary OS 6 onwards? Yes. App Center is Flatpak at this point. Everything is Flatpak. It offers so many advantages both on the developer side and the user side that it's the way we're going. So yeah, to submit an app for Elementary OS 6, there's a really simple manifest. You base it on the Elementary platform and submit it that way through our build system. And then our build system itself is built all around Flatpak. So it knows how to talk Flatpak. It knows how to make sure Flatpak's permissions are, everything's Flatpak. Everything's built around Flatpak. If there's an app that can't technically do the same things in a Flatpak as it could in a Deb, that's kind of a feature of Flatpak, is that things are sandboxed. So in those cases, that app maybe just isn't a good fit for App Center, but there are other ways of sideloading apps onto Elementary OS. It's Linux-based, it's Ubuntu-based. That's always, going to be around. But for the sandbox guarantees, the security and privacy guarantees we can make, we have built App Center around Flatpak. And it also means that all App Center apps will be able to run on other distributions that support Flatpak as well. So it's you have to decide if your app makes sense. Yeah. Let's see. Is it intended that when I swipe up with 3 fingers, it closes the window I hover in multitasking view? No, there's an open issue on that. It probably depends on your trackpad firmware, actually. When you swipe up, it just shows the apps here. But if you do, let's have an example. I guess I can do it here. If you 3-finger tap, it counts as a middle click. And middle clicking, just like middle clicking on a tab closes a tab, middle clicking on a window in the overview closes the window. I think I mentioned that the issue that I filed there is that it should require the actual click press, not the tap, and that might help avoid accidental closing of apps, because yeah, it's not great. Well, things like web open up and resume where they were generally. If your app doesn't do that, it can be frustrating to accidentally close it for sure, and there's an issue filed for that. Let's see. Would it be possible to have a beta app inside App Center? Yes, theoretically that would be possible. There's work to be done on, I think, both the back end and front end of App Center for us to enable a beta situation. Flatpak supports branches, so you can have by default, everything in App Center is in a stable branch that's been reviewed and approved by us and put into the stable branch. But theoretically, we could have a beta branch that developers can release to. Theoretically, we could have a bleeding edge daily branch that developers' own CI pushes into. But none of that has been completely figured out or done yet. So, and then on the App Center client side, we would also have to, right now we show the branches. I'm trying to think of an app that has multiple sources. I know Fondo is on App Center and on FlatHub, and I have the FlatHub remote added. So here we show the remotes that are available. We have App Center, App Center system-wide if you want to install it for all users, and FlatHub. We could probably redesign this to actually handle installing beta versions, maybe with a little bit more of a disclaimer or something. Thank you, Mitchell Valentino, for the super chat sticker. I'm not sure what the terminology here. Is that a super chat or a sticker? But thank you for it. Keep it up. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Appreciate your support. But yeah, so we'd have to do some UI work here for beta apps, and we'd have to do some backend work to enable a process for developers to submit it. Flatpak itself as a technology would support that, though. Let's see. If I remember right, Mast is saying, if I remember right, there were 2 Sudoku apps in 5.1 that were forks of the same app. Yeah, so that's a good example of that. Sudokular and was it just called Sudoku? Yeah, these 2 apps were, one was forked from the other for UI reasons and update reasons or whatever, but they're different branding, so they come up as different apps by different developers, and that's fine. That's open source. Yeah, as long as it's not confusing to users, and as long as there's actually a clear like change that you've made, or if it's continuing on the development of a project, then that's fine. It's open source. Somebody mentioned that Akira is technically beta, but App Center doesn't differentiate it yet. Yeah, so that's a case of the developer's chosen to release it to App Center as an app. It's technically in the stable branch of App Center, but they consider their app a beta, but it's on app stores and stuff. So there's not as many, there's not really a distinction there. If we had apps that were released as like a beta or alpha that weren't in stable, I don't know that we would show them by default because we don't want users going and just accidentally installing all the random things. So yeah, there's more design and I guess thought that has to go into that as well. Somebody's asking, what's the difference between App Center and App Center system-wide? So the difference here is it's installed for your user by default. So that's the default because you install an app. If you have another user on your machine, you might not necessarily want every app that you install to just show up on their install. If it's something specific for your work or just a game or something, it doesn't always make sense to install it for all the users. So by default, we keep it siloed in your account, but you can choose system-wide, and then it will install it for all users as well. And there's more UI work we can probably do here. This is just showing the it's not even capitalized, so it's showing the under the hood name of the remote and showing that it's a system-wide remote. But yeah, that's the technical difference. Is it installs either for your user, which is also the same that sideload. If you sideload a Flatpak app through the sideload app, it installs in your user account by default. And there's a feature request to add a drop down to say I want to install this for all users. But that's the differentiation there. Somebody's asking if it's possible to ship a switchboard plug as a Flatpak. No, not in App Center for sure. I don't know if I don't think it would technically be even possible because I think switchboard would have to be a Flatpak and then it'd have to be an extension or something, and that's not how it works. So switchboard is modular mostly for the side of OEMs, is really, if you were shipping Elementary OS on a really weird specific piece of hardware and needed to add settings here, as an OEM, you could ship that as part of your image on your operating system. But as far as it doesn't really make sense for third-party developers to plug into the system-wide settings. These are things that we want to make some sort of guarantee about from the operating system vendor side, that these are settings that we are offering, that we're supporting. So it doesn't really make sense for apps to plug into here. Yeah, that could theoretically maybe change in the future if system settings was a Flatpak and those were extensions or something, but we currently also don't offer wing panel indicators as accepted apps in App Center because same reasons of we want the indicators are things that we're providing as an operating system and making guarantees about, and it doesn't really make sense to have apps plug in there. And then the technical side of that is also difficult with, I don't think you could even technically do that with Flatpak. So somebody's asking about the default text editor called code instead of text or notes with a code mode for advanced users. Code is called code because it's code. There's a blog post about this somewhere. It might make sense to have a notes app and not ship code actually by default. But code we use code to build elementary OS. So we want code to be a good code editor. It's meant for developers. It's not just a notes app. It's a code editor. So, and there was kind of a shift. We used to call it Scratch. Let me pull up that blog post because this talks about Scratch is now code. Yeah, there we go. Scratch is now elementary code. So if you want to take a look at that blog post, there's your URL. blog.elementary.io/scratch is now elementary code. Or just search for Scratch code on the blog. But this kind of goes over at why we're focusing on code. And then, if you look at what Scratch used to be compared to what code is now, it's such a better code editor today. It's so nice to be using it to build an operating system. I use it to build my apps. We use it to build the OS. And that it allowed rebranding it and refocusing it on code allowed us to make more developer-oriented decisions, like get support out of the box and being more project-based and doing things like showing line numbers by default and doing more smart things with white space by default that don't make sense in a generic text editor, but make sense when you're editing code. But yeah, if we had a Notes app or something, I don't know that it would make sense to ship code by default. Maybe we would ship code on App Center as an app that people could install if they needed a code editor. But at this point, we don't have a Notes app or something. And the reason for not doing just like a generic text editor is a text editor is it's a technical. How much I probably say this in the blog post better too. The fact that something edits text files, plain text files, is a technical implementation detail. Plain text file doesn't tell you its intent. If it's a code file, it's for a code project, and you can do syntax highlighting and smart things about project management and Git things. But if it's just a .text file, it's like it's just text. Maybe it's notes, maybe it's a grocery list. We shipped tasks in Elementary OS 6, and that's a great place to store lists of things, to-do lists or grocery lists or whatever. But a plain text file is not really it doesn't make sense so much. So a Notes app would be, I think, the natural pair with tasks to say, hey, if you just need to jot something down, or maybe the Notes app could open plain text files and display them because you need something that can display those files. But if you're editing code is a better experience for that. Yeah, so that was quite the tangent on that, but it's a decent question. It's the one I've thought about a lot, and I'm pretty passionate about, I guess, too. Somebody's talking about the fonts. Yeah, we've heard a lot of mixed feedback on the fonts. For everybody saying that they don't look good, we get people saying they look incredible. So it's I don't know. It might be different display technologies, different types of displays, high DPI versus low DPI. Yeah, it's something I'm curious about looking into and seeing, does it make sense? Is it a hardware compatibility thing where we say, hey, this font, what is the word for it? The aliasing or the subpixel, blanking on what it's freaking called. But yeah, maybe that's a hardware compatibility thing where it's like, yeah, on certain displays it makes more sense to have the RGB subpixel. On other displays, or by default we can do the grayscale. Grayscale looks better and fixes some issues in a lot of cases where we used to have weird ghosting of like pink and green on transparent things in GTK. But we've heard people say that they look fuzzy to them. So yeah, there's a place to report that. Dan, I think, linked to that, but it's a common enough thing that we've heard that I'm aware of it and trying to think of how we can address that in a way that, also keeps the people happy that are really happy with the new typography in Elementary OS 6, because there's a lot of people who are very vocally happy about it too, with Inter and the new font weights and the new font rendering settings. It looks really nice to them. So something we're aware of. Somebody's asking why there's not a font. This is just a real free-form Q&A today, I guess. Somebody's asking about why Files is not on the dock by default. You can see I put Files on my dock because I use the Files app a lot. But it's more of a philosophical and like intent thing. File-based browsing to start or file-based computing, I guess. Ideally you would use your apps for things. Ideally, if you have music you want to listen to, you open the music app. If you have a video library, you can use the videos app. If you have notes, you could use a notes app, or if you have code, you use your code app. So like a file manager feels like, there's not a files app on my on the home screen of my phone or on my tablet even. It feels like this very desktop paradigm that is maybe not actually the best, especially as we're seeing a lot of users coming from places like Chrome OS and Android and iOS and iPadOS. File-based desktop computing feels like this kind of weird legacy thing that we've had around. So we don't put it on the dock by default. It's super easy to add it there yourself. If you do end up finding yourself using it all the time, you can right-click it and say pin to dock, or you can just drag it there or whatever. But it's a system app. It's a more of a like system. It's a thing you have to have on an operating system, but it's not like a fun app that people want to go be like, yeah, these are the apps that I like and that I launch all the time. But you can customize your dock how you want to. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, yeah. So I see there's a question here in super chat. I have a question. I was a little confused by the new double click behavior for files. Is there any discussion about it? Yes. So there is. That was actually something we did during the beta process for probably a few months. We proposed that. We talked with users that had reported issues, and we kind of trialed it out and made some tweaks to it. So there's a thread, GitHub elementary files. I think it's called mixed mode or hybrid mode. Let's see if we have an issue talking about mixed mode here. Mixed mode. Okay, so there's a pull request here where we actually, it was proposed in September of 2019. That's how long this code change, how old this code change is. And then there's lots of discussion here. So, and there's probably discussion on the original issue too about, a little bit of discussion here on the original issue that it fixes. But yeah, there's lots of back and forth of testing this and trialing it and, making changes in response to feedback. Here's a long verbose post from me talking about, okay, here's where we are and here's like how this can solve things and what we need to change. And there's 37 more. There's tons of discussion here. If you really want to dive into the history of this, I probably can't say anything more that isn't already covered on this pull request. So it's github.com/elementary/files/pull/1036. Yep. And the gist of it, without, I guess, the summary, and I think we mentioned this in the release blog post too. The summary is we heard a lot of feedback that it's similar to the icon in the dock thing. There's this legacy idea of, you have to double click to open things on a computer because that's just the way it's been. And we try not to just do things the way they've been done because that's the way they've been done. Obviously, we have to, when we're designing things at Elementary, we have to respect and understand the legacy and actively decide when to go against it. In this case, people on mobile operating systems and people on the web, which is probably the dominant way people use their computers these days, everything is single click. And even in elementary OS, in native apps, everything is single click. You click a button and it selects it. It does the thing when you click it. The double click in a file manager is this like one weird legacy edge case. And so we've always, actually, elementary OS has always been single click to navigate. So you navigate through, it's been single click. The feedback that we heard was that people were accidentally opening apps, especially if they had selected a bunch of apps and then accidentally clicked them or something, or they just they click an app that's like a 5 gigabyte file that takes forever to open in whatever, like huge files that take forever to open. It was way too easy to accidentally bump them and then open them and have to sit around and wait for things to open and then close it back down. So we thought about it and talked with users, and the idea of double clicking. Let's see, where's I thought this was, oh, this is on my other computer that's in my screenshots. The idea of, double clicking to open is it keeps that legacy of double click in a file manager while having the nice like speed of just single clicking to navigate, and it prevents those accidental opens as well. So we think it strikes a nice balance. There's tons of discussion about it. Of course, again, kind of like with the font thing, anytime you change something, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. Hopefully everybody gets used to it, and that's the way it works. Yeah, thanks Fabio for the super chat as well. Thank you so much. So catching back up on all this chat since I was blabbing over here. Interested in implementing dyslexia-friendly text feature in Plasma. Looks like Dan, I think, pasted a link there. Let's see. Lots of these questions do have open issues people can search for, but we're here at a Q&A. So like if I was having a drink with you guys at a bar, I wouldn't be like, hey, go file an issue. I'll chat about it. It's fun. It's informal. It's fine. I didn't have a super strict schedule for today anyway, so this is fun. Where do you all see the App Center in a year from now? Is the sprint going to happen now that the whole COVID situation is a bit better? So we had like a mini sprint, and we've done a lot of work remotely for App Center for everyone. So that's the whole App Center backend being Flatpak based was part of our sprint that we did have with a smaller group of people here in Denver a few months ago. And we blogged about that as well. But I would like to have an actual bigger sprint. Unfortunately, I don't think the whole COVID situation is going to be gone anytime soon. As we see cases increasing and restrictions being put back in place in certain places. So that's what's hard. We have a global community, a global community of contributors, and we have to organize all that and make sure we're doing what's best for everybody. So I don't see a big in-person sprint happening anytime soon, but we are committed to continuing to work on that. And again, as I said with the App Center website here, we're realizing a lot of those App Center for Everyone things, like being able to download as a Flatpak on any operating system that supports Flatpak. We have to write some instructions, but eventually we'll be able to have some instructions for how to install the Flatpak remote on any operating system that supports Flatpak. There's work. The big set of work now is what's called a Flatpak Authenticator, and so that's what actually shows you the pay what you want dialog when you download an app on from the Flatpak remote on a different operating system. Because right now that's handled in App Center itself, but if you're using something with GNOME software or KDE Discover, then you're not going to see that dialog. So that's we want to do that before we're like, yep, check, done. App Center for Everyone is a thing. We have to do that, the Flatpak Authenticator. I think that's the main piece of work still to be done there. Thanks for the super chat, Anderson. Love the work you guys are doing. Just wanted to contribute. Keep up. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. I'm also going to pull up. I have a checklist of things I'm supposed to mention on the stream that I wrote and then haven't been following. So I guess, just first of all, thanks for joining me for this kind of all over the place Q&A. Remember, there's always fun merch that you can go get at store.elementary.io. And there we have our, why is my internet being dumb? Come on. Try that again. There we go. We have our devices there listed up top, our retailers. You can go get a computer with Elementary OS 6 from each of those now, which is pretty cool. And then we have t-shirts and outerwear and mugs and laptop sleeves and posters and pillows. And you can go several of these, especially these shirts. We added some new colors this past week. My internet is struggling. Hopefully the stream is still coming through okay for all of you. It is just struggling right now. There's something loading back here. Close that. I don't know what's going on. Well, this is fascinating. Should have pulled this tab up ahead of time because this is real. It's real good. Well, when that loads, oh no, it's not my internet. It's the store crashed, probably because we added too many color variants, or you're all crashing it right now. Well, if that's not crashing, that's embarrassing. If that's not crashing, there are multiple colors now on the logo type T and the, yeah, that's gonna have to go file a bug about that. On the logo type T and on the logo mark T, there's red and navy and like forest green and pinkish, orangish color. It's like clay or something. I forget what it's called. But there's all sorts of good colors there. New stuff. Let's see if this actually loads this time or if it crashes. Nope. Okay. We'll give it a minute to. So we use the Printful API for our store, and what happens is Printful doesn't like us making that many API queries for all of the colors and stuff. So if too many people go click on it after it's deployed, it struggles and we get an error back from Printful, and you have to give it a couple minutes to cool off, and then it works again, and then it continues to work. But yeah, go check out the swag. Hopefully the site's working, especially if you're watching the stream later. Site should be working just fine. We also added, let's see, did we add something else? Maybe that's all that we've added so far. We're working on future additions to the store as well, coming sometime soon. Check out these laptop sleeves. So if you're a fan of an older Elementary OS release, or you've been around that long, like if you really loved Loki and have been around since Loki, check out the laptop sleeves. They're if you got that like nice nostalgia for that wallpaper, they're fun. They may not be around forever if they don't sell super well, so we may clean them up, whatever hasn't been selling as well. So if you want to get them, make sure you get them now. And then also, let's see. Yeah, that's all the store stuff for now. I'm pulling up my notes here. Again, I had this all pulled up on my computer, on my stream computer, and then it crashed 2 minutes before the stream. Oh, man. I guess I can take a look at the chat while this is pulling up, too. Somebody said nice hair. Is that me? My hair is a mess today. I didn't style it or anything, so it's just, I got a haircut recently, though. Somebody says Inter is gorgeous. Thank you. Yeah, Rasmus has done an awesome job there on Inter. Single click philosophy. This is the best middle ground. Yeah, that's with files. We tried to find a good middle ground that's gonna, be easy enough for people to like adapt to, but not be totally awful for anybody individually. Pedro's asking about Contractor on Elementary OS 6. So, for those who don't know, Contractor is it's something that's been around in Elementary OS for quite a while. It's something we developed that's like, it's a way for apps to communicate or hand off tasks to one another without having to know that the other task is even there. So it's similar in some ways to like sharing on Android, but it's actually much more powerful and much more interesting than that. So an example of that is you can like select a bunch of files in the Files app and right click and say compress, and that it looks and feels like it's happening inside of Files, but it's actually a contract it's handing out to the file compressor app. And theoretically, multiple file compressor apps could exist and provide different, or multiple other apps could exist and provide different contracts of, hey, this is a task that I can do. Here's the types of file formats that I can accept. And then apps can be more integrated with one another. And it's kind of the whole beautiful Unix philosophy thing of doing one thing and doing it well. Unfortunately, in Flatpak, that's not currently something that works. We have been discussing, there's this desktop actions API, which is what lets you, what's an example of this? Add actions to apps here. So like composing a message. That's something that the app has said, here's a specific action I can perform. We could extend that, which is a free desktop standard. We could extend that to provide the same type of information that contracts provide, which is here's the different type of file formats or the different types of data types that I can handle for these specific actions. So the mail app could provide a desktop action that says send an email, and it could accept photos or I'm not thinking it through super well right now, but Whoops, I don't want to actually compose a message. Yeah, okay, yes, go away. That's a bug that's been filed. I need to delete the draft. An empty draft is not discarded. But yeah, we want to approach it from the free desktop side and a way that's going to work in Flatpak and a way that's going to work across platforms too. So Elementary OS has, as far as I know, been the only operating system to ship contractor and contracts. But with App Center apps working on other operating systems, we want to make sure that those actions would still work in those contexts too. So it's a pretty common request from users and developers, both for Elementary OS and for Flatpak apps. So I think it's something that we'll solve with the free desktop and Flatpak people, but it's something that just needs to be done still. So somebody's asking about apps being published that are not native or GTK based in the future, like an Electron app using Flatpak in the App Center. No, App Center is native apps, native to the platform. They meet all of the user interface guideline guarantees and all of the accessibility guarantees and feature guarantees. They're able to support all these features pretty trivially. Things like the accessibility or the dyslexia-friendly font and text scaling. Native apps are going to support these features, even accent colors and dark style. Like native apps will support these features or be able to support them much more easily than an Electron app can. And it's also for the user side of being consistent in just how things like keyboard focus and just like all of the little things that make native apps native it's a huge part of what App Center is. So for those apps, we recommend submit it to FlatHub. So FlatHub's a third-party Flatpak remote, and they accept apps that are built with any sort of toolkit for any sort of platform, proprietary or open source, submitted by their developers or not. So it's FlatHub's kind of the Wild West, and there's everything that's good and bad about the Wild West, but it's if that's where you want your app and it's not a native app for Elementary OS, that's where you can submit it. And then it's really easy for people to install FlatHub apps on Elementary OS. It's just a couple clicks. If they haven't already added the remote to their machine, it's just go to FlatHub. Here's like Minecraft. Minecraft's not a native app. It's not even submitted here by the Minecraft developers. But you can click install and open it, and you would click install here. I already installed it because I like Minecraft. But it's a pretty easy process to install an app from FlatHub. So that's where we would recommend you go submit like an Electron or non-native app. Somebody's asking what app would we recommend to connect an Android phone to Elementary OS 6, be able to handle phone notifications, sending text, etc., like KDE Connect. So yeah, the hard thing there, KDE Connect is pretty cool. I've used it, and I've used the GNOME connector, the forks of it that work on Elementary OS and GNOME Shell and things. It's cool, and I can see how it's useful. We've been focused on a lot of the features, like when you connect Bluetooth to your phone, we show your phone as a music player. Oh, you can't see that because the chat's there. When you connect Bluetooth to your phone on Elementary OS, we show your phone as a music player here. And if you're playing music, the track information and the album art and things show up here in the music indicator, and you can control it. And you could even tell your phone to use your computer as a sound output device. So your phone, whatever app you use on your phone is your music source, but you're integrating on Elementary OS and you're controlling it that way. There's more features like, showing oh, that's weird. I don't know why that's not showing up. Showing the battery level of your connected phone, if it's charging, plugged in and charging. Doing things like that where it's these like it's standardized. There's, you Bluetooth your phone in a car, and so it's a standard interface there that different manufacturers have to agree to support. When it's a deeper integration, like something like clipboard integration or notifications, it's really hard to not only just to develop the app on the client on the phone side, or use KDE Connect or a fork of KDE Connect, but those APIs are getting locked down more and more by the OS vendors, by the mobile OS vendors. So we're already seeing in iOS, it's getting pretty aggressive about clipboard for good reason, for privacy reasons. It's getting pretty aggressive about clipboard management, throwing up notifications when any app accesses your clipboard, which, every time you copy something, then you'd have to have that app running on your iPhone in the background that can access your clipboard. And it's basically keylogger at that point, which again, it's providing a good feature for your desktop, but Apple's not going to let that fly. Even if they would allow it now, that's definitely not going to allow it moving forward. And Android is moving in the same direction, where they've added a lot of clipboard management stuff, again, for good reason, for privacy reasons. But it's really hard to put any significant investment into integrating that sort of feature in the operating system, knowing that the OS vendor is going to oppose it. So I think the more interesting route, and the route we've talked about, is working more closely with Linux-based phone operating systems and the free desktop community in general in supporting these features that we can. And maybe if you got a Pine phone or a Librem phone, and maybe that would be we could be the best integrated operating system to use your Librem phone with. Like, that would be really cool, because we could actually support it at a lower level on the phone operating system. Whereas it's harder to make any of those guarantees, especially long-term guarantees with OS updates on the proprietary platforms. So yeah, and I know Dan's talked about that. I think he maybe talked about it on his previous stream. But and there's also just like user experience issues where if you have Slack on your phone and on your computer and you get a notification and it comes to both, and it's hard to know which one to reply to, and you don't want these duplicate notifications. Or same with mail apps, you get mail on your phone and on your computer, and then you get a notification from your phone and your computer. And so like there's a lot of design work that would have to go into that. And we don't want to just like say, yep, we integrate with the phone and here's just everything you can possibly do with the phone. But really thinking through the actual use cases, like music. We've solved that music use case pretty well, and there's maybe more specific integration features we can do there. But yeah, it's kind of a whole. And then there's always the issue of it's going to take a lot of time to design and implement those things, and there's always a million other things that we have to do too. So yeah, it's a whole thing. Something we've thought a lot about, but I don't see anything directly being implemented anytime soon, besides iterating on the existing sharing features that we already have. So let's see, catching up on the chat here. There's a whole page now. Somebody's asking if I see myself working on Elementary OS forever. Yeah, I hope so. I love Elementary OS, and it's literally my livelihood at this point. So I hope to sustain that until I'm old and want to retire, I guess, and then pass it on to young whippersnappers who can carry the mantle on, I guess. But yeah, I mean, who knows in 10 years what the technology landscape is going to look like, but I hope we're still doing things at Elementary that are open source and ethical and privacy respecting and design focused, and just all of the things that we've always been doing. I hope that continues on forever, and I'm going to be involved with it as long as I'm physically able. All right, what do we got here? Somebody's asking about ButterFS. I don't know enough about ButterFS to answer that on a stream. There's GitHub. You can file an issue there or ask other people who might know more about it. The terminal pillow looks great. Might have to pick it up. Yeah, I think it's the best-selling pillow that we have in the store is the terminal one. People love that black terminal pillow. I've got one on my couch actually too. So let's see. Somebody else is talking about smartphone integration. Kind of covered that pretty well. Does the artist get revenue share for each sleeve? So no, the wallpapers are sourced from Unsplash, and they are like openly licensed. Like, I believe, depending on the time that each wallpaper was used, it was either technically completely public domain or under the Unsplash license, which allows people to make variant products and things. Yeah, it's an interesting question, though. I don't know if there's a way we could reach out to those artists and figure out some sort of split there. I will say margins on those are really small anyway. So it's not like, because they're printed on demand, so it's not like we have thousands of these that get printed at a bulk discount and then sell them or whatever. But they're printed on demand for each person that orders them. So margins are pretty small. It helps support us a little bit, helps sustain the store itself, and support development a little bit. Yeah, that's something I'll look into. It's an interesting idea. Why isn't there a notification or any indication plugging in an external drive? File an issue. There's probably an issue filed for that, but yeah, I don't know if there's already discussion around that. I don't know enough about that. Lots of things. How do I make Qt apps consistent with GTK apps? Those are different toolkits. So, I mean, they're not going to be consistent. It's like asking how to make an Android app consistent with an iOS app. They're different toolkits that are designed to look and work differently. There may be some compatibility things that can happen, but it's like trying to get in it. Yeah, they're different apps built with different technologies. And the developers, probably have specific ways they want their app to look and work, and trying to force it to do look and work a different way is not really going to be that productive. Yeah. Let's see. I think we're kind of running into the weeds here with the chat. So I'm going to jump over back to my blog post now in the last 2 minutes of the stream because it's been an hour of rambling and chat, which is great. I'm going to jump back over to my checklist here of things to mention. So, a big thing that we released, I think it was just yesterday, was the updated ISO that fixes the shim or Dell EFI issue. Basically, if you have a Dell machine or some other EFI machine and you couldn't boot the installer, go try now. So on elementary.io on the homepage there, the download there has been updated with a new version. Ubuntu did some great work upstream. There was an issue with some of the low level stuff in Ubuntu that we depend on that was preventing that from working. It actually delayed the Ubuntu 20.04.3 release, I believe. But they fixed it upstream in Ubuntu. We rebuilt the ISO with that fix in it, and it's available now. If you've purchased Elementary OS 6, in your email receipt, if you click that link, it will download the new version, the fixed version now as well. So that's an easy way to grab that. And we've also fixed some things around related to that and sort of adjacent to that, related to Grub. Grub is actually updated correctly when needed. And it should, I believe it got rid of the weird thing where on certain systems you were seeing Grub for 10 or 30 seconds or something every time you boot it up, when you shouldn't have. So lots of low level fixes that have made their way in, that are related to Grub and the shim and bootloader stuff. App Center, there's a new release of App Center. We actually just released, I'm not sure if this has shipped. We search for something that doesn't exist. It may not have, or I may not have installed the update on this machine yet. But there is a release of App Center that has, on the search results page, it has the same kind of language that we have in onboarding where it says, no apps found, try changing your search terms. You can also sideload apps from FlatHub, and it links you to FlatHub. So if you're looking for something that's not in Elementary OS by default or in App Center by default, you can now pretty easily jump to FlatHub and be informed of that's available, while still keeping that clear distinction of you're navigating externally to a third-party place, but we can at least help you a little bit on the way there. Yeah, it's a nice little update. We also fixed, made sure that the user installation is selected by default when you're on the homepage. So when you click one of these apps here, we ensure that it's not going to accidentally default to the system version. It's going to be the user version. What else? When you install an app and it shows, so when you install an app and you go, wait, I wasn't fast enough. That app installed too fast. It was too small. I'll install my own app, and I'm not going to pay myself money for this app. Okay, if you're on a different page and an app is installed, you get this little toast here. And if you click open, sometimes based on how you navigated there, it might not open correctly. We've fixed that. So, and there's been a few other App Center fixes, I believe. What else? Another thing that we heard from people that were installing Elementary OS, some of them had issues where the machine name was weird, and so the set by the OEM was weird, and so it would actually set an incompatible host name. So that's what shows up in here by default. This is generated from, this host name is generated from the installer, based on the information that the OEM provides, plus I think it's a random hash, just so that if you install it on the same model, you don't get the same host name every time. But yeah, some machines were giving us an invalid name, and so it would actually fail to install. So we fixed that. If it is an invalid name, we fall back to just like Elementary OS or something. So yeah, if you had issues installing in that way, give that a try. It should be fixed now as well. What else? Lots of little things. Oh, I know a common one that a lot of people have talked about, and I'm not going to go change the setting, but I'll show you. So there is this button or this switch in displays that says use this display. In certain multi-monitor setups, it just wouldn't do anything. You would switch it and it wouldn't do anything. That has been fixed. So thanks to David Hewitt for diving into that and getting a fix out there pretty quick. So yeah, I know it's one of those things that's like every release, underlying libraries change, and so we have to make sure that we update and do things in the new way. So that was something that was missed, that just wasn't working in some certain situations, and now it should be fixed. And now it's also disabled when it won't do anything, like when it's the only display. You can't turn off your only display. So yeah, if you've seen that issue, it has been fixed. I know that's one that a lot of people have been very loud about on issue trackers. So thanks to David for getting that fixed and tested. What else? Of course, we're also, we're building on the latest 2004.3 repositories, in the Ubuntu repositories in Elementary OS, and all of the hardware enablement work that goes into those. The newer kernel, the newer graphics drivers and things are included in Elementary OS. And there's also, power indicator. There's a couple things with the power indicator that are new. So first of all, in the power settings, there's a new switch to show your battery power. Switch here, just like you can do it up here, show percentage. But if you're going in and changing power settings, it makes sense to know that that's a feature. And then also in the power, you can actually scroll. I'm two-finger swiping, but you can use a scroll wheel on a mouse or two-finger swipe to change your brightness, which is really handy. It was backwards on touchpads that use natural scrolling, which we do by default. Now it matches the music or the sound indicator. So when you scroll up, it goes up. When you scroll down, it goes down, regardless of your natural scroll setting. It's just it's up and down. Yeah, and I think there were some other little things here and there in the release. I know there's updates to the installer itself. There's updates to, I think, initial setup. Oh yeah, there's now two-finger swiping that we have throughout the OS to swipe back is enabled in initial setup. So that's a handy little thing. I think, let me just run initial setup here. So it's technically not going to actually be authorized to do anything because you wouldn't run it in your session. It runs in the greeter when you don't have any users. But so you can, two-finger swipe to go back now, and it looks so good. It looks so good. It's masked off by those corners thanks to Handy. Yeah, it's so good. So again, this would be showing up on your machine if you didn't have any users, not when you're actually logged in. And then we show your host name here that's generated by the installer, but you can change it. So if I wanted to call this Star Laptop, whatever, it would, when I create my user, it would actually create the name that way, and then that would be reflected in system settings. And when you share your Wi-Fi connection, like if you do a hotspot, it defaults to that name, and when you connect to Bluetooth, it defaults to that name. Yeah, so just a nicer way to have a nice, more human-readable device name when you're first setting up your account. So besides just the default that's like under the hood that's set. So yeah, those are a handful of the changes that are coming out here in the next, either have already been released or coming out here in the next few days. Let's see, I don't need all this stuff up anymore. I'm going to just see if this works again, or if it's, yeah, see, I knew it'd work. So you can go get stuff from the store. Look at all those colors, so many colors. Need to redesign this page we didn't design it with all these colors in mind. But yeah, if you want a red shirt now, you can be a red shirt. You can get your red shirt. Let's check out the chat, see if I missed anything, but I think I'm going to wrap up here. It's been over an hour now. Let's see. Somebody's asking about the applications menu. Oh, that's actually another update. When you install a Flatpak app, it will now show up in the applications menu right away. You don't have to reboot. Also, ignore the weird random apps that I have installed for testing things with broken icons where I need to. That shouldn't be possible. I need to file an issue about that. But yeah, when you install a Flatpak app, it shows up in the app menu, applications menu, right away. No reboot or log out or whatever necessary. Thanks David again for that fix. Found something we weren't doing correctly there and updated it to be better. Somebody's asking about the color of the little light under an app in Plank. Oh yeah, the little pink light that is very hard to see. Yes. There's not a way to change it because that's actually a bug that it's pink. It shouldn't be pink. It should be black, I believe, or it should be contrasting the dock. There's an open issue and a pull request, I believe, for that. So hopefully we can take a look at that. I'll make sure it's on the project board if it's not already. Because yeah, it's not supposed to be pink. That was just a bug that slipped through, I think. Let's see. Somebody's talking about the subreddit. Yeah. Yeah. Dan posted actually a kind of a reminder of the subreddit rules, I think today or yesterday. We've had conversations about that because we want. So for those who don't frequent the Elementary OS subreddit, it's hard because I don't personally spend a ton of time on Reddit, and I know a lot of people in our community don't. So it ends up being like it's like this separate community of people that's just not as engaged in the same ways as like we are on Twitter or on on YouTube streams and stuff. And it also just attracts like a very vocal crowd. And then with less like clear rules and less clear moderation of things, it kind of turned into this like very loud echo chamber that's just like repeating the same things over and over again, and it's not super productive. It's not really solving needs, and so we've kind of resurfaced those rules and clarified some of the rules there to be like, hey, we love community, we love like both criticism and praise and everything, but like we want it to be a productive place where people can like share what they're interested in or share what they're doing on Elementary OS, or if they do have like design questions or like things that are cool to discuss, like that's a cool place to do it. But it's not really great to just be like this echo chamber of like, here's this issue that everyone else has posted about that I'm going to post another duplicate issue about. And that's kind of what it had turned into recently. So yeah, we're doing some work there to clean that up a little bit. Of course, we also want the community to be a little autonomous as well. Like we don't want to come in and say, this is what we're doing and we're not going to allow any discussion of anything. And so we have to manage that, but we're working on it. I think I think I've already seen it starting to improve. So if you are in the subreddit or you haven't checked it out, it's reddit.com/r/elementaryos. And go there, be a friendly person, share cool things there. Just don't share duplicates and don't share weird memes that are just like super negative or just like making fun of people. But yeah, go do cool things in the subreddit. I would love to see that be a much more fun, engaging conversation space for the community. Somebody's asking, do all the white web pages look blown out? Yeah, that's my capture card, I think. I changed the setting before the stream and then my computer crashed. I think it overheated or something because it just literally just turned off on me. So it might be, is that better? No, that's worse. And I don't know if it's actually changing it live for you, but it's changing it for me. I don't know. I need to talk to Wimpy. Martin Wimpress knows more about these cheap capture cards. I think this is about as close. Yeah, definitely. I'm looking at my preview now. It definitely looks like more blown out than it should. It's better than the default setting, but it's still more blown out than it should. There should be a gray box around that shirt and stuff that's not as visible. Somebody's plugging the community Slack. Yes, I agree. The community Slack is nice. I don't remember where we have a link to that. If you can mention that in the chat, Darshak, yeah, it's a good place. There's lots of people just sharing cool projects they're working on. Yeah, just another kind of community place. It's not an official place that we're hosting or like totally moderating, but it is a place that I'm personally in and like to hang out in. Speaking of places to go visit and hang out in, check out our Get Involved page if you want to get involved with Elementary OS. So, people ask, how do I get involved? It's like, well, we have a whole page for that. Um, you know, there's a handful of us that work on elementary OS full time, just a few of us, and then a few really dedicated volunteers that work quite a bit. But it's really a community thing. It's mostly volunteer, um, mostly people's passion projects. So there's always ways that people can help. Whether if you don't have the time but you have money, there's a way you can help fund elementary OS. If you speak multiple languages, you can translate elementary OS. We have an awesome, huge translator community, but we can always use more people here to help translate elementary OS into native languages. If you just want to help people, if you like helping people, there's a way to do that on Stack Exchange by seeing what questions are new, and especially with the release, a lot of people are opening new questions. So head over there and answer questions for people. That's a huge help. And then also we have documentation, and you can also there's a button to edit the documentation on GitHub as well. So if you want to help be more informative for developers or users, there's a way you can do that with very little technical knowledge. And then web development, we have tons of websites. We have so much of what we do is on the web. We have our main website, we have our blog, we have our App Center website, we have the dashboard, we have so many websites, and we can always use web developers to help out. That would be a huge help. There's always tons and tons of work. As a desktop-oriented project, we get a lot of desktop developers that are engaged with us, but less so on the web development side. So I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, hey, I don't know how to do native development, but I do web development. Please, please, please go check out our web development, our website, file issues, see what issues are open. If there's anything you can knock out that's easy, or if you're interested in taking on harder tasks, we would welcome it as well. And then, of course, desktop development. Like I said, we have a lot of developers here, but there's always more things that can be done, whether it's reporting issues, fixing issues, making new apps, browsing code, contributing to our existing apps. There's tons of things that can be done there. And then design as well. So we mark issues as needs design when we need to figure out how things should look and work. You can browse those issues. You can view the style sheet if you notice something is not looking correct in elementary OS and want to see how it works and maybe even contribute to that. You can view the style sheet, and same with the icons. There's lots of design work there. So yeah, that's how you get involved with elementary OS. There's so much can be done there, and we're pretty welcoming. We also have our GitHub organization, which we do everything on GitHub. Let me pull that up again. Where's the easiest way to get to that? Browse code. So github.com/elementary/ I guess just /elementary is the homepage for it. You can also browse all of our code. Everything we do is open source. Over 100 repositories here now. 142. Geez. Tons of code. So if you ever want to just know how something works or dive into it, you can get there. And of course, I would be remiss to not mention our incredible sponsors that sponsor us on GitHub. We have a great group of people here, 576 people currently sponsoring us. You can go join them for as little as $2 a month to just get our updates. We send out every month. We send out an update to our GitHub sponsors about what's going on. And then $10 a month gives you access to early access, which is daily builds, experimental builds for things like Raspberry Pi and Pinebook Pro. And we also have a new one-time sponsor tier where if you just want your name to show up on our blog post, because we do about a monthly blog post, you can drop a one-time sponsorship there and be the sponsor for a specific blog post, which is really cool. So check that out if you're interested. If you want to say that you helped sponsor the August updates to Elementary OS 6, go check that out. Yeah, I think that's about a wrap. I've gone way over time here. Any last second random things that people want to drop in the chat? Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. I never pulled up that checklist of things that I should check on every stream, but I think I covered them all. I don't even know where to get to that. Where is that? github.com/elementary/streams. If you have more ideas for future streams, you can go to github.com/elementary/streams, and there's a discussions board there. If you're like, hey, I want a more structured stream that specifically dives into this topic, you can suggest it there. Let me pull that up. It's there's a handful of things there. I wasn't really feeling any of them today, but the community can also vote on them, and we can kind of discuss how that would work. So if you go here, click on discussions, there's ideas here for different streams that we could do, and just keep things interesting for you all. So thank you, Mr. Ben, for the super chat. Thank you for the sticker. Appreciate it. Yeah, let's see if I missed anything. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, we have a blog post coming soon, probably end of the month or early next month, about some of those changes I covered in the stream today. Other than that, make sure you tune in next month. We're going to start doing these more regularly. So our goal now is the last Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific, 12 Mountain, which I think ends up being 1800 UTC, I think, if I'm doing my math right. Yeah, tune in every month. We'll have some more regular and more interesting streams going on, especially as we get settled in with the Elementary OS 6 release and getting regular updates shipped. I'm so excited to ship updates. It's my favorite part of the release cycle, is that when we release a new version, it's the beginning of the cycle. It's when we get to start doing fun stuff again. We're not racing to the release. We're doing new experimental, fun new features and things. So stay tuned for all that. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.